Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Balderman. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Obviously, it's pretty easy to go on social media and make comments and say things, but to take time out of your busy life to be here, I know we appreciate it. We're happy to host this town hall for you because we know there are some concerns, and we want to be here to address those concerns and give you the factual information, which is not what you always find on social media. But to provide all that for you and certainly answer any and all of your questions that you have and talk about it. So this is not an official village board meeting, but there are other trustees. There are trustees that are here in attendance, so I want to say thank you to our trustees, Annette Bowden, Dave Smith, Doug Finnegan, that are here, so thank you for coming out tonight. And then we have members of our law enforcement community as well as neighboring law enforcement. So if they just want to take a moment to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. Micah, you want to go ahead and?
Hello, thank you guys for coming out. My name is Micah Nessie. I'm a sergeant of investigations with the police department.
I'm Deputy Chief Louis Alessandrini.
Hi, I'm April Massander. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations on the police department, and like the mayor said, we do appreciate you coming out tonight. I know everybody has a hectic schedule, so it's a big deal for you to take the time out to be here. We want to answer all your questions and anything we can help out with.
Okay.
I'm John Brady. I'm a resident and also police chief of Frankfurt.
And I'm Bob Starr, the chief of the Lenox Police Department.
So it's good. Now I want you all to know that this meeting is being filmed, so it will be televised for those who could not make it. If you are uncomfortable with that and don't want to ask a question on camera, we certainly will stick around afterwards to speak with you privately, but we do think it's important because there has been so much conversation about it that we did televise it and that we did put it out on our local access cable. So again, you're going to hear tonight figures, you're going to hear facts. I know sometimes that doesn't matter. People get upset, they get concerned. But we have to deal in reality, and we have to talk about what we're doing to address the issue and what you can do to help us to address the issue. What we find in cases like this, and for those of you who don't know, I retired as a police chief. I have 22 years of law enforcement experience myself, and so I'm very familiar with these. I stay out of the police business here. I leave it to our fine professionals in New Lenox and in the Lincoln Way area. You know, when I read these concerns on social media, and for those of you that are on there, I think you know I'm really active. I try and talk to our community and discuss issues with our community. But it got to a point where people were starting to say, oh, New Lenox isn't safe. I don't know that I can live there. I don't know that I want to move there. And certainly that is not the case. We found, for example, you'll remember a few months back, that there was some, not only again here, but along this area, some armed robberies at convenience stores. And so what we did was, aside from the good police work that they do, we enacted an ordinance that's put in place now where if you are a 24-hour operation and you're thereby you don't have multiple employees working, so it wouldn't apply to like a Jewel or a Walmart, but to a gas station or to a 7-Eleven, they have to have buzzers after a certain period of time to buzz people in. Because what we're trying to say is, although you can never prevent crime from happening, you can never 100% of the time prevent crime from happening, what you want to do is deter it the very best that you can. We have not had an armed robbery at one of our convenience stores or gas stations in months. And what happens is a lot of this is cyclical, and you'll hear about this from the police department. They come in waves. There may be a crew or a certain person that's out there hitting an area and hitting it repeatedly until they get caught, and then it goes away. Or there may be one or two crews, and this happens everywhere. I don't care what type of community you live in, crime happens everywhere. Sometimes the nicer the community, and I think what you might hear tonight is, the nicer the community that you live in, number one, you may be a more appealing target. And number two, people who live in safe communities sometimes tend to be a little lax, thinking, oh, I live in a great town, I don't have anything to worry about. But the truth is, we're just sometimes inviting people to come out because it's easy and it's convenient for them to do that. Something else, and I don't want to take everything away from what the police are going to talk about tonight, but we live off I-80, and I think that's why you see that this Lincoln Way stretch, in this particular case, has found itself to be an easier target because some of the people that have been caught, and there have been some that have been apprehended, or some of the information that we've gotten because they've used a stolen credit card or whatnot, are coming from areas where it's very easy. Maybe you hop on I-57, I-80, and you're back again, instead of having to drive through numerous suburbs down side streets. And when you're doing that at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, there are not that many vehicles out on the road, so it becomes a lot easier for the police to say, hey, there's the car we're looking for. You hop on I-80, you can get back pretty quickly. Trustee Jason Howard has also joined us, so Jason, thank you.
Sorry, Lee.
No, that's good. All right, so at this time, Detective Sergeant Nessie is going to give some of the information, and here, Mike, you can come over here if you want, to talk a little bit about how many of these burglaries to vehicle, criminal trespass to vehicle, stolen vehicle. And of course, he can explain to you the differences between those particular classifications, how many we've had, where they've occurred, what days of the week they've occurred, show if there's a pattern or not and whatnot. So Micah, go ahead.
So with those three categories, the burglary to motor vehicles, the criminal trespass to vehicles, and motor vehicle theft, as you can imagine, pretty easy to determine that. The motor vehicle thefts that we've had, these stats are going to run from January 1st to present day. And when we talk about motor vehicle theft, we're talking about the ones that happen in these residential areas that we've had. And in that time frame, we've had 6. We've had 2 of those happen on the same day, on the same street, and the other 4 kind of scattered throughout the town. We have a map up here that we'll let you take a look at, but you can kind of see, and again, it'll be up here, but there's some green dots on here. That's going to be your motor vehicle thefts. And you can see just by, if you look at this, and I'll tell you if you can't see it, they're around the whole area of the town, from the east to west to the north to south. And you can also see with the red pinpoints, those 2 are scattered throughout the entire town, which means it's very hard to pinpoint a certain location to where any one team, any one person, or any one crew, as the mayor had mentioned, might be focusing on. We have in this town a lot of great neighborhoods, and they're scattered throughout our boundaries, and that leads to this type of action happening. When we talk about the actual thefts that occur in the vehicles or the burglary of motor vehicles, in that time frame, we're looking at about 46 of them. And just one, I guess, rung below that, we talk about criminal trespass to vehicles, where we've had a lot of vehicles, and I venture to say a little bit more than the 14 that are reported, that vehicles have gone through and nothing's been taken out of them. They've been rummaged through. There's been people come out to the cars, and there's the glove compartment stuff's all over the inside of the car, but it appears at that moment that nothing is missing. We add all these up in this time frame from that January to now, and we're looking at mid-60s, okay? If I look at the calendar, January, February, and now this month, April, we have about 3 to 6 a month. This last month of March that we all experienced, there was a spike. There was 44 that occurred in 1 month. And we attribute that to, like the mayor said, maybe a crew or a group of people that are targeting a town or multiple towns. Frankfort, Mokina, our town, Manhattan, Lockport, these towns have all been experiencing these same situations. Obviously on different levels a little bit, but they're all aware. They all have had these same things, and we've all kind of talked about them. So those are the 3 categories that we'll look at that have occurred throughout the area.
You can talk about days.
So we look at Monday through Sunday. Sunday would be the lightest, 4% of the time. Every other day of the week, upper almost double digits, 9, 8, 9, 10% of the time. We had a Thursday day of the week that was a little bit higher because there was a time, one night, where there was 13 of these burglary motor vehicles the same night within the same 2 or 3 block radius. It was very compact and very quick. And I say that just to let you know, I have video of an incident where a vehicle rolls up into the street, 4 or 5 people jump out of the car. Very quickly, they might check 6, 7, 8 houses, 9, 10, 11, 12 cars. Within 3 minutes, they've checked all these cars, they've stolen a car, and they're gone. within 3 minutes time frame. So you can imagine the chance, our chance of being in that moment at that time to be there. So during the days of the week, there is no set day. There's one day that's higher, but that's because we had a major issue on one of them. But all of them, 8%, 9%, 10% of these incidents happened Monday through Sunday. Okay, so very hard then to pinpoint what day of the week, which location or which area. But that being said, we try to take some preventive measures or some active measures to try to be out on the streets, to be in the neighborhoods. I can go into that prevention. So because we've seen this and we did this starting from March, because that month it started to we got that uptick, we allocated and adjusted schedules and hired overtime at a tune of 192 extra hours, man hours, to be out on the streets to try to combat what was happening to everybody. And in that time, though, there was we made multiple arrests. We made some juvenile arrests. We made some male adult arrests, and we currently have a pending arrest trying to identify somebody with the help of surrounding communities. So adding those extra man hours, I mean, you guys have seen social media. We've tried to utilize the social media network to talk about locking our vehicles, all those things. We used a program called Nixle, and we put out reports like that to try to reach our community, to let people know, hey, this is what's happening. During those time frames, our officers on the streets in the neighborhoods as of January, found 144 open garage doors and vehicle doors at night, where they then would make contact with the homeowner. You know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's a scary minute for those people. Hey, banging on the door. Hey, they come out, we look in the garage, nothing's missing, put the garage door down. Just dating back to October, 184 of these open garage doors, mostly found by the officers that are in the neighborhoods, you know, driving around, driving the streets. You know, all while obviously they're on the main streets and they're doing the rest of the things they might be doing in that time. And then when we talk about these instances that happen, you know, the officers come out, the evidence guys come out, they try to get anything they can from these vehicles. And as you guys have seen and know, there's so many different varying factors, whether it be weather, what the people have on their hands, the offenders, how they're doing it. So the officers do their best to try to gain any evidence they can, and we pursue it down the road going that way.
Hey, Micah?
Yes, Chief.
Can you speak for a moment to the value of fingerprints? And it's not like television. And so when we send this stuff, we need elimination prints from homeowners and other people who drive the car, and then the priority placed upon these fingerprints in terms of analysis at the Illinois State.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the prints, just themselves, trying to get a print off a surface, that is a ball game in itself, whether it be glass or the side of the car or the interior of the car or this wood or whatever it is. So these evidence guys, they go and if they see one, they'll take it. Now, whether or not it gets back and it gets analyzed and looked at and goes to lab, it determines. They need certain criteria that print must reach. I know we've talked to homeowners. If it's your vehicle, the Illinois State Police Laboratory, they will not take that fingerprint unless they have some elimination prints from the people who own that vehicle so that they can automatically say, okay, this doesn't belong to the person who owns it. Let's continue on and work farther because of their priority when it comes to what this crime is. And then if you take, you know, crimes in general as a whole, there is a prioritizing just when it comes to violent crimes against people and property crimes. And it doesn't mean these crimes aren't important and shouldn't get investigated. They do. It just takes a little bit longer. When you talk about Will County and our community, which is, as we say, safe, and it's nice, and there's communities out there that are submitting the same night I'm submitting some prints from the vehicle, they might be submitting, you know, a homicide or something. So there's just a priority thing that they have to follow, and we've had to wait 6 months. You know, it takes time for these prints to come back just because there's a priority, and they have to put those in order, and there's a backlog, and they're working them, and all those things go into that process to get those prints identified.
So let's talk about, as Sergeant Nessie said, there were 60 burglary to motor vehicles or criminal trespass to motor vehicles. Of those 60, none that we've been able to identify were locked vehicles. They were unlocked vehicles. There were a couple of people who said, I think my car was locked, but There's no sign of any break-in. And with all the multiple videos that we have, we don't see anyone with any tools. And more importantly, we have a number of checking a door handle and moving on because it's locked, checking a door handle and moving on because it's locked. And speaking with the chief from Frankfurt, who's here, he had a similar number, 66 or something of those two crimes, and you had one that was a break-in, but that was of a work vehicle, and you think it may not be related at all to this type of crew, correct?
Yeah, when none of these other ones were going on, it was by itself, so we have to do something else.
Right. So essentially, 100% of these are unlocked vehicles. Now listen, every one of us, myself included, has gotten a grandkid out of the car, has gotten some groceries out of the car, thought we locked it. It happens. And it certainly, I don't care if your garage door is open, that doesn't give anyone the right to commit a crime against you. So it's not about blaming victims. But if we don't want these things happening in our community, what I would tell you is, if they came here for the first 2 months and went 0 for 20, they're not coming here anymore. But the fact that it's been such a plethora of wealth for, there's been so many opportunities for them, why not keep coming back? We're going to keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. We have to, and I think it's no coincidence that we've seen a major drop-off in the last month. There was the one bad night in March, but then a major drop, which was, 13 that night or something along those lines? A major drop-off because there has been so much more conversation about, hey, remember to lock your doors. Remember to lock your doors. Make sure your garage door is down. And I think that's a big reason why we've seen a drop-off. Weather's going to be nicer. They're going to keep coming if we're leaving our car doors unlocked, if we're leaving our garage doors open. That's pretty frightening stuff. It's pretty bold for somebody to go into your garage. And in some of these cases, or at least in one that I'm aware of, perhaps even more, somebody's car door was open in the driveway. They hit the garage door button and opened the garage. Their keys were in the vehicle in the garage, and then they stole that car. So we haven't had any where they've gone through the service door into the homes or any of that. But is that the next step? I don't know. And then you've got a real mess on our hands. So we all have to be very vigilant in remembering to lock our property. Yes, we live in a great neighborhood. There's no doubt about it. Like Micah said, there are a number of cases that are ahead of us at the state crime lab because they're investigating homicides or sexual assaults or home invasions. And so our burglary to motor vehicle, although important to you and us, is way down the priority list. And not to mention how difficult it is to lift prints and to get positive identification on these. And then furthermore, what we're seeing a lot of for some of the people that have been caught, we're talking about juveniles that are being sent out here. Now, last night, Chief, if you don't mind, can you share the experience of what happened, and if you wouldn't mind, just because it's important, hitting the mic and let everyone know what happened last night, which presents another problem. But go ahead.
It's not our first time happening. Our officers were called to a possible car burglary in progress. They got there right away. There was a white vehicle, SUV, that was there. We went to go chase after it because it was described as the one the offenders got into. As soon as they got into it, they headed back towards Route 45. This is about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Lights go off on the bad guy's car. They're doing about 85, 90 miles an hour up Route 45 and have no cares in the world of what's going on. We start to go after them. I always tell my officers we're not going to chase for a car burglary. It's not worth somebody getting killed than running into somebody. So they called off, alerted some others. They saw guys going all the way up through, believe they got on I-80 and were gone. Found out a short time later that that vehicle was stolen the night before out of Frankfurt Square. So even if you had a license plates or anything else on it, you weren't going to get anything from it anyhow, and that's what they do. They continue to go and steal these cars, go and commit additional crimes somewhere else. And like the mayor said, I mean, the biggest part is it's just locking your doors to make it a place where you don't want to come and steal a car from. It's incumbent upon us as the residents, and I can speak that way here, is that, we got to lock the doors. My neighbors hate me because all my cars beep 3 times before I go to bed. So I'll make sure I locked it, check it again one more time. I usually get in bed and I go and say, did I lock the back door? I get up, go around the house again. But I do that every night. I got cameras at my house. But, these are things you've got to do to help out the police. The police can't do it alone. It takes a community to make the village that much safer. And if we're not helping them, we're wasting a lot of resources on some of these silly crimes that we can prevent. They're preventable.
Absolutely. And I will say the community's been great. We certainly appreciate the community has been looking out for each other and helping the police and providing video and providing information. So you've done a great job. of trying to help us. But number one, it's difficult especially with these cameras that we have, to get license plates. Number two, if you get a license plate, it's pretty much useless because it's more than likely a stolen vehicle. Number three, if the police do roll up on them, they're going to take off, because we had a similar incident in our community as well. Two of them as well. There's no way in the world that the chief is going to authorize, as Chief here said, Brickus said, a high-speed chase over a burglary in a motor vehicle, because we all have loved ones that are out there. We're not going to have somebody get killed over someone breaking into a car. And so, but they know that too. I mean, that's the reality. They know that more likely, we have professional police departments in the Lincoln Way area. We follow those chase policies. We're not going to get into a pursuit over something like that where somebody's going to get killed. It's not worth anybody's life. And so they're sending juveniles out because they know that the penalty is going to be less harsh. They're in stolen vehicles, so the plates don't do anything, and we're not going to chase them. So really, our best defense is everybody just locking their cars, making sure their garage doors are down, looking out for your neighbors. If you see something suspicious, and the police will tell you this, it doesn't matter if it's car burglaries or if this goes away and we don't have another one for 6 months. If you see anything suspicious, the police want to be notified. They will go out there and check it out, and they will talk to the people, see what it is. We had an incident a few months ago where somebody was out there. There was a group of people, and this happens all the time, all over, where they're out there and they knock on your door and they say, we're selling gift cards for college scholarships or whatever the case may be. In those cases, we find out that they may be legitimate gift cards. Are they really getting them for college? Whatever. My guess would be probably not. But these are not the people that are, the person who had that group of people that were out there talked to the police, gave all the information. These are not the people that are committing these car burglaries. Somebody said that one of them went along the side of their house, possibly to urinate or whatever. I don't doubt that for a second. I'm not saying that they're high-class, upstanding citizens that are out there, but these happen at the same time as these car burglaries, and some say, oh, there's your crew, that's right. That's not what this is. The police know who, not by name, but they know what's happening here, who these crews are that are working, what they're doing. They're not ones that are knocking on your door and talking to you. They're coming up, and in 3 to 5 seconds, they're making a quick hit and they're gone. The problem is going to be that one of you are going to confront them. One of you are going to be coming home at a time when someone's in your driveway. And that's not going to be good for anybody. We understand you want to protect your property. You want to protect your family. Certainly you have a right to do that. But nobody wants to get into that situation. So what we believe very strongly is if everybody locked their car doors and kept their garage doors down, this crew's going to come out for a little bit, check it, come up empty, and they're going to go find a town where they're not as vigilant as we're being here. We're holding this town hall community for you, not because we think this is a dangerous community and there's all kind of terrible things happening here. We're holding it because you're concerned. We want to hear what your concerns are, but we want to give you the facts. And we want to tell you how we can best address this. We could put 50 police officers out on the street. And like Sergeant Nessie said, unless they just happen to be in this particular area at that 5-second interval, and even then, unless they happen to creep up on them and they don't hear them coming and they can grab them, they jump in that car and take off. We're going to go to stop them, but the minute the lights are turned off and they go 80 miles an hour, we're done. We're done. My wife, kids, grandkids are out in the car. Your families are out in the car. You're not going to be real happy with us if there's a horrible accident over this. So we really need your help, not only in looking out for your neighbors, but in doing the responsible thing of locking it up, double check, triple check. Go ahead, Chief. You want to add something?
No, I think it's fair to say that, so that you know, with rare exception, the proceeds of these car burglaries have been very nominal. It just small items change, nothing of any great value. There have been a couple of phones and maybe an iPad or something of that nature, but that's really very rare. All the cars, 3 or 4 cars? Yes.
Six.
6. They've all been recovered. So these are not crimes for profit. They're just idiots, to be honest with you. These cars are stolen. They're all recovered. They're recovered in Harvey. They're recovered in the south side of Chicago. Many of these kids, and they seem to be teenagers, are from that area. They're from Joliet. And frankly, in the past, some of them are our own residents, teenagers with apparently nothing better to do.
So do you have a percentage of apprehensions? Do we know more, whether it's juveniles or?
Well, let me share one with you. So, no, it's a great question.
We're going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. No, it's fine.
And I was going to actually get to that right now. So one of our more vigilant officers, he did a great job one day, and he apprehended 3 juveniles, and they were all from Joliet, and but he apprehended them. They were hiding. They apparently saw him coming, but he got them, and they hadn't done anything, and they were out after curfew. We took them into custody, and these are kids. What are they? 15? 15, 16 years old. First words out of their mouths, I want a lawyer. Not I want mom or dad, I want a lawyer. And one of the siblings of these kids came to pick his brother up. And he told our guys, he's a thief. They're all thieves, and they've been thieves for a long time. So, yeah, we know who they are. They were from Joliet. They didn't steal anything from our town, and I'd like to think they haven't been back. But this is what happens. And then the flip side of that, to be frank about it, they're juveniles. Now the law has changed a couple of years ago. If they're under the age of 18, they're juveniles. And if they haven't stolen anything of any value, the repercussions are not great. And they know that. And when we have crews coming in from the city or from Harvey or from elsewhere, they'll have juveniles with them, and they'll have them drive stolen cars because they know not much is going to happen. They're not going to prison for stealing a car or being in a stolen car. There may be slight repercussions, but they're not great, and there's a variety of reasons for that, but we're stuck with the result of that. And so that's kind of where we're at.
So certainly it's always difficult to stop a criminal from committing a crime because they're going to go where they see the opportunities. And from what I hear, it sounds like the resources that we've added are being thrown at it to reduce or eliminate the opportunity. Talking about the PIN map, I think that's great data. You understand where it's happening, when it's happening, time of day, time of week. The other thing I think that we appreciate some strategic feedback on is time of year. During the first 6 months of the year, January, February, March, a lot of people just don't want to go out. We get into these warmer times of the year, it can't be burning through overtime all this time. What's the strategic play?
Well, it's interesting, and it's a good question. The data would reflect that it's rather diffuse. So there isn't the time and times are tough because oftentimes people, I got home at 8 o'clock at night and I found my car was rummaged through at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's very hard to narrow that down. These cameras, these Ring and Nest cameras and other types of security systems are helpful. The pictures aren't great in terms of identification.
I've done those in commercial properties.
Sure.
And really all you do is the guy waves to you as he leaves. It's like, you're not going to, you saw somebody do it, but you can't.
The great thing about the one we had, the great thing about the one we did have, it was very instructive. The mayor talked about it earlier. Yeah. 2 vehicles in the driveway. He hits the truck. It's locked. The one 2 feet away from it is open. He's in and out of that thing in a matter of 5-10 seconds, front and back, and they're gone.
I just know there's a lot of trade in either tools or the open back of their truck. That's their livelihood. So again, it's you're not going to stop the criminal from committing the crime. It's
what the mayor said earlier, though, nails it. All of our efforts, and they've been substantial, and all of their efforts, they've been substantial. And I can speak about Mokina also. They pale in comparison to locking doors, to people locking their car doors.
But to get to your question, it's not about time of the year. It's not about winter or summer. there's a crew that's out there hitting our area, and they don't care if it's June or they don't care if it's December. If it's convenient, they're gonna keep coming 12 months a year if we keep leaving our cars unlocked. So it's not like, well, it's too cold, I'm not gonna go out there, or they don't care. So it's sporadic. We might not have any, we might have gotten hit hard in March and might not have anything again till November, but it's not because of the season, it's because we got lax again, or whatever the case may be.
So I know, fire departments have the mutual aid, and I see Frankfurt here and Lenox here. So if this group says it's too hot in the weather, is it Homer Glenn? I mean, are all of you guys in communication, the chiefs, in the community? So, again, if the crime's gonna be committed and it's not in Lenox, let's hate to say it's gonna go somewhere else.
Sure.
Who's the
That's our
next
goal.
town that becomes the victim of this?
Well,
I can tell you,
sure.
We're sharing all the information we put together from Orland Tinley Park. The problem is, you gotta remember, they have no idea where borders are. So whether they say it's they don't know they're going Frankfurt to New Lenox to Mokene or anything else. And we worry about the time of day or time of year. The coldest day of the year we had, the coldest one in history, we had 2 done that night. We thought for sure there was no way they're coming out. They don't care at this point.
Right.
They're coming out at all times and they're hitting it. This is from Kenilworth all the way down to us. And sometimes we're the same all in one night. So we keep working together and trying, but really, like I said, it's shooting, it's darts in the dark.
There are chiefs organizations, there are detectives group, they meet together all the time, they share all this information. Orland was on the news 2 months ago about all that they were getting hit. Orland, Tinley, we all share information, everybody. And when it does stretch, like the chief just said, there's no boundary for us either. We share that information with everybody. Everybody knows. We care about the whole area. Certainly the chief cares about New Lenox and Frankfurt. We care about the whole area, but I'm the mayor of New Lenox. And so we're having a town hall meeting because you're important to me as the mayor and to our board and to our police department, and this is why we're sharing this information. We're concerned. But what concerns me just as much is if people feel like they don't live in a safe area, when this community is just as safe as any other, it's just that we are allowing this, we're making it convenient for people to come here, but they're hitting everywhere. It's not just us. It's not just our residents. It is the whole Lincoln Way area. It is Tinley. It is Orland. It is all over the place. But we have to be a little extra vigilant because we are so close to I-80. That is something that is a big, big factor. We have to be a little extra vigilant because of that. There's a lot of conveniences that come with having I-80 and 355 there, and then this is one of the things we just have to be a little more aware. But we do want to open it up for other questions from anybody at all. Yes, sir.
I know you can't believe everything on the internet, but I watched the video, and the experienced thief has a device that he can extract by going up to your garage door, and he can extract the code and copy it. He can even extract the key fob of the car
Sure.
From outside your home. Is that true or is that not true?
There's all kind of ways that somebody can do that sort of, just like they can put a card reader at the gas station pump and you put your card in there, we'll steal it. We just are not experiencing that out here. That's not what we've seen. It has been, anytime they've gone in a garage, it's because somebody's car was unlocked and they hit the button or the garage door itself was up. So those devices, those sorts of devices are certainly available, but that's not what we've experienced in any of our communities. So, to answer that. Yes, sir.
77,
66, well, 66 including 6 stolen vehicles and then 60 burglary to or criminal trespass.
okay, so how does that compare to last year? Do you have data on that?
Yes.
We know what that.
I know, go ahead.
Well, it is higher, and that is because that month of March, that was an outlier where there was 44. So we are above last year's numbers, and I don't have those exact numbers on me. I want to say around the 30 mark, but that 44 in March, which October, November, December, January, February, 6 at the most in any one singular month, and some of them 3. April, 3 thus far, but March was the outlier, and it was these crews, and we talked about collaboration. One of our pending that we're working on arrests, Orland Park arrested somebody. The video that we do get occasionally, it'll give us clothing, it'll give us something that we can help, that helps us to link. And then as the communities work together, we believe, and that it's a juvenile, it's a juvenile, so not a whole lot is happening even from, and when you talk about Cook County, it's even different with juveniles compared to Will County, but we are higher than we were last year. However, we have 1 month, March, thus far, that is an outlier.
Well, prior to that, because we were looking at October and whatnot, I asked the chief for that information. And actually, prior to that March, I know when we looked at the previous year, we actually were down a little bit. And then it spiked up. So this is, but it goes with these crews. I mean, they're going to keep hitting, and then they'll disappear. And then we may not see anything for 9 months. And then somebody else is going to try it again. And if they're successful, we're going to get hit again. I mean, it was when we had, a couple of years back, we had 3 armed robberies, and everybody was saying, of course, it was Walmart's fault that we had these armed robberies. As it turns out, it was a lifelong New Lenox resident that had an issue, a substance issue that hit the stores. And so, but once that person was apprehended, we didn't have another armed robbery for 18 months. So, I mean, and that happened. I've seen that in my career as well, where you'll get a ton of burglaries, you know, rooftop burglaries or something. But once you catch that crew, then you don't see anything for 9 months or something. So it really comes in waves. I would be willing to bet of these 66 cases, this isn't done by more than 2 crews or something. You may get the random, like the chief said, these juveniles that will go through, and our kids, we have some of them living here too, that will be walking home and they'll pop a door. Oh yeah, I'm going to take some change out of here. Or, oh, there's a laptop on the front seat. Oh, the door's open. Okay. But for the most part, this is not 66 crimes committed by 66 different, I know you know this, but you know, this is 1 or 2 crews that are doing the overwhelming majority. And once they're caught, or once we start locking our doors, we're going to be back in business without this. Would you agree with that assessment? Yes, ma'am.
You talked about how you share information with Frankfurt, with Mokina, Moreland, Tilly. How much are you sharing with Will County Sheriff? Sheriff to cover those areas that are local but are not part of both events?
Yes.
So we have monthly meetings with Will County. As a matter of fact, Will County hosts these meetings, and detectives or investigators from around the area, to include state people, come together. And just the last one we had was a very common topic amongst communities. And along with that is we all, investigators and the police officers, have relationships with Will County sheriffs, because they come into our town, they're here patrolling, and we know the sheriffs that might be in the Lincoln Way school district area or our unincorporated areas, and they too share their information with us, and we talk to them on a regular basis.
For sure. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. You gave an important stat that there are 100% of the cars that are broken into are actually not broken into, they're open.
In the residential areas.
So, well, 100%, that's a pretty strong stat.
Yes.
That I'm not sure is publicized, maybe I just haven't seen it, but that maybe people should know. That's a pretty strong number.
Well, the last time I put it out there, those who didn't want to hear that information,
Okay, well,
we're not interested in your facts. We've got our own story to tell. So it is. We have, believe me, we have said that. We do the best we can. I mean, you're right. If there's somehow we could, I mean, we do it through social media, because nowadays that's what we do. We've talked about it at our board meeting, so it's on our televised. The press has been great in working with us as well. There have been flyers, I mean, our newsletters and whatnot that discuss it. So we do the best we can, but that's really very true. If I remember, in the residential areas that was said, I know that one of the health clubs had a couple of break-ins, but that's because, and I think both cases they had like laptops laying on the front seat. They had something laying on the front seat, and that was at a health club. But in our residential areas, the most we've ever had is a couple of residents saying, no, I'm pretty sure I locked my door. I think I locked my door. But there's been zero evidence of any break-in, and all of our video shows that they just move on. They just move on if it's a locked car. So yes, we're very confident in that statistic. And you're right, we try to get it out as much as we can. That's the point of the town hall. Again, I was asked the question, well, from people who realize that these are not necessarily break-ins, saying, well, why are you having a town hall if this is just unlocked cars? Well, because we have to get the word out. We have to discuss this. It's important that we talk about it. I'd rather have a town hall meeting, and there's great turnout here from you tonight, and I have a feeling a lot of people will watch this. I'd rather have that and give that information, whether it was necessary for some or not, than just say, well, it's really not a big deal, let's forget about it. If you're concerned, we're concerned. Even if we feel like this is really just a matter of locking your doors, if you're concerned, that perception is important to us and we need to address it. Yes, sir?
Are any of the people you've apprehended armed?
Okay, have you recovered any weapons from anybody that?
We talked about the 3 juveniles, and then other apprehensions will come when we are able to identify people through pictures, through the evidence, that type of thing. So we have come across, we have 2 instances where officers, on a busy night back in March, neighbors called in, residents called in, officers got there, pulled up onto a car pulled over, didn't have any registration to identify the car. Officer got out to approach the car sped away, right? There is another incident where officers are in the neighborhoods doing what they're doing. As soon as they turn around on a car that is suspicious or shouldn't be there, automatically that car that we had sped out, officer let it go. Frankfurt, because we're on the radios, we're collaborating, sees the car's flying by, they're not going to pursue it, but we were able to get some identification. We were able to get a license plate. Come to find out it was stolen 9 days prior, way up north, and it had been seen by 2 other agencies and fled from those agencies. So in the act, grabbing people, we haven't had any, because we haven't, they don't stop. And
It's usually through follow-up.
It's usually after the fact.
But you bring up a good point, and here's what. The answer to your question specifically is no. However, we would encourage all of you, if this happens, we don't want you trying to grab somebody out there because they could be armed. And this is property. I'm sorry?
That was my next question. Like,
I mean, if they're in your house, that's one thing. But if they're in your driveway, you call the police, you stay on the phone, you get the information you can get. We don't want to see any of our people hurt. As much as we don't want to see your car broken into, it is not worth getting hurt over. And because let me tell you, this will come as no surprise to anyone in this room. Here's a scenario that plays. You go out there and you grab this 15-year-old kid and you beat him up, guess who's going to jail? You, not the poor victim.
a lot of people got their hair concealed now.
Yeah. Yes, and just imagine, not at all, and not at all. So we understand the frustration. I know I would be furious if I saw somebody in my driveway. Obviously, I have concealed carry. But am I going to shoot somebody over it? No. And we don't want you to be getting into a fight over it. Not only could you be hurt, but you could have problems beyond, and that, even if it's not with us, you could have legal problems beyond that. And not only that, if they get away, they might say, okay, this is the guy whose house the whole crew's got to come back to. This is the guy. So it's just none of this is worth it. This is property, and it's important to you and it's important to us, but we would not encourage you to try and apprehend these people or do that. Get on the phone immediately from where you can see, get as much information as you can, but please don't take this into your own hands. That's not going to work out well. Yes, sir.
Do you think your message isn't getting out there, or are the people in New Lenox stupid?
Well, those who voted for me are very smart. The rest of you I can't speak for. Here's what I would say. I know you're teasing, but a lot of times people forget. But I will tell you, there have been a number of people who have said to the police department, yeah, I leave my car unlocked. Because, I live in a nice neighborhood. Yes.
In the car.
Yeah, that one I don't understand, but they do. There's a fob left in the car or something. I can't. So, again, we all make mistakes. So if you thought you locked the car and you forgot, or we're on the phone or grabbing a kid or whatever, that happens. And I look around the room, and most of us probably at some point in our life lived in a neighborhood and in a time where you could leave your car unlocked or your door unlocked to your house. Those days are long gone. I don't care where you live. I don't care what suburb you live in. Those days are long. Sorry? Well, back in the day, you absolutely could back in. But I love our community. I wouldn't leave my house unlocked or my car unlocked. There's no way. There's no way. You just can't do it. So, but there are some people, yes, who have said, oh, yeah, I knew my car was unlocked. I leave it unlocked. And unfortunately, I will tell you, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, someone was a victim twice.
They this person claimed to have been a victim 7 times. How many reports did we take?
We found 4.
4 in our system, so maybe the others went unreported. And the person's comment was, I guess I have to start locking my door. Maybe.
So, again, go ahead, man. I'll get to you. You're trying.
I just wanted to say thank you, because you guys are out there.
Yes.
We have 5, sometimes 6 cars parked on the street at night.
Sure.
2 of my sons leave for work at a ridiculous hour at 4 a.m. And twice that have come out and the cops start checking because they have their car running and they're in the house, so
Sure.
they're ready. And they're making sure that car is locked. And it sends a message to the young sons as
Yeah.
well. So
Sure.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Out there doing what you do.
Thank you. Our police department and all the area police departments, thank you for saying it. They do a great job. I thank you. They do deserve a round of applause. They do. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because somebody did mention this to me on Facebook, but it's true. You have to be careful too. There are people who go to the gas station and leave their fob in the car, and they go inside to pay and their car's running. We haven't seen a lot of that, but that's next. So we just have to be, how many times do you see on the news a car that's taken like that and there's a kid in the backseat? You know, God forbid. So we have to really, really be careful. We don't have to be paranoid. We do live in a great, safe community where our police officers are doing a great job. We just have to be smart. We just have to be smart. Sorry? Sure. I'm getting yelled at by Don, the cameraman. All right. All right, Faye. Go ahead.
Okay, to the comment that gentleman over there just made, I don't think we're stupid. I just think it's just that one time where you forget to unlock your car, and it happens to you. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous. It's just crazy that one night, like, what are the chances? What are the odds?
Listen,
that
I can
you're
speak
out?
to that because I've been out of the department for 29 years, and I had a teenage son that was driving the car, left the car unlocked. I had no idea. This was probably about 2 years ago. Had no idea anybody went into it. We ended up catching the people in Orland Park. They got a bunch of property, and my detective called me up and said, April, are you missing your wallet? I had an old wallet that I had left in my car. I didn't even know it was gone. So I agree with you. It's not that you're stupid. It's just like the mayor said. Sometimes you forget, you've got groceries, you have a teenage child driving a car that doesn't lock it. So it happens, it does. And it, a lot of times you're not deliberately leaving it unlocked, but it does happen.
But
so.
you know what, Faye, to your point, it may not have been that one night. You may have locked it every other night, and they checked it, and it was locked, and they moved on. So it was that one night that you were the victim of a crime because, unfortunately, your car was unlocked. But they may have checked it, or another crew may have checked it, and it was locked. And so they moved on from there, and you would never know. I'd be willing to bet that the majority of us in this room have had our door handles shook at some point in time, especially over this 6-month period of time. They're hitting all over the place. That does not surprise me. But you're right, that's Murphy's. Sometimes it happens.
Now that it's almost summer, I mean, you can't be in our backyards now with the garage doors open. It's just getting it's ridiculous.
Well, here.
In and out, okay, I go get my mail, I go to the garage, come out, go back in, close it again. It's like back and forth, up and down, up and down.
But here's.
I can't leave my door open.
But here's what here, Don, I'm repeating it. She says she can't leave her door open. Here's what I would tell you. That's the difference. Please don't be paranoid. If I'm outside riding my, 3 in the afternoon, riding with my grandson on his bike down the street, my garage door's open, my garage door's open. I'm not worried about that. But we're talking, here's what I would tell you. These people that are committing these crimes, and this is true of almost any criminal, they don't want you to confront them. They don't want to be seen. They're not going to be typically coming in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're home or in the backyard. They do it when they're hoping not to get caught. That's when they're quick, and that's when they do that. So live your life, enjoy your life. But, if you're gardening in the backyard, you should always be aware. But I don't think we have to be overly concerned. It's, leaving the cars unlocked. It's forgetting to close your garage door at night. It's those sorts of things. Again, we should always say, okay, leave your door closed. Sorry, I'll be with you in 1 second. But we live in an extremely safe area. These are people that are looking for conveniences when they feel like they're not going to be seen or caught. Yes, ma'am, and then I'll get to you, sir.
Do we have a statistic on what time these crimes are happening? Are they more likely at 3 a.m. than 3 p.m.?
Well, to the chief's point, sometimes somebody will park at 6 o'clock in the evening and go in for the night, and when they come out at 7 o'clock in the morning, their car's gone through. We have no idea. But on some of these Ring videos that we've seen, and I know Mike has left, there have been some typically, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Are there some that are 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night? Yes. But they're not typically 3 in the afternoon. The 3 in the afternoons are the people that will, if they see your packages on your front door, and again, we haven't had a lot of that, and like other areas have, but if they see your package on the front door, they might run up to grab a package and take off. But we have not seen, but cars being entered, it's not an afternoon thing. It's a late evening, early morning hour thing. Yes, sir, I know you've been waiting. Thank you.
Just had a couple of comments in general.
Sure.
The fact that we're having this, I think, this event because everyone's been reporting it.
Yes.
I'm here because I saw your message about this.
Yes.
I think raising awareness, obviously, is the best part. Making it hard for people to get into our stuff is obviously a deterrent in 100% of the cases that apply.
Yes.
Another comment I had was I've been living here for like 20 years, and I think there's only been 1 or 2 homicides in the past 20 years that I can even think of. So I don't want to say that these crimes are meaningless, but it's a very violent crime. I'm happy that as bad as things are, like this is as bad as it is around. I feel like we're really safe.
It's a good point. As annoying as it is, at least nobody's getting hurt.
That's what matters. And, the only other question I had.
Sure.
There was an ordinance. I think there was an armed robbery. I don't know what gas station it was. And then you were talking about an ordinance where you have to put buzzers on the door. And had that passed? And wasn't there a version where we're going to require cameras on the building?
Yes. Yes, and that did pass, but I think we give them till July 1 till July 1 because there's, they have to put that together. But it's a 24-hour business that has less than 2 employees working, less than 3 employees, so 2 or fewer employees working. And the reason for that is, of course, you could be back in the cooler. We were concerned for the clerks' safety that are working there, that's working there late at night. Not to mention, you're on your way home from work or, your kid's coming home from work and you tell them stop at the 7-Eleven to pick up a gallon of milk and they walk into some situation like that. So it's only certain hours, it's not all hours, but yes, they have to have working cameras and they have to have the buzzer on the door to get buzzed in. Because if you're going to pick up a gallon of milk and I'm behind the counter and you got to get buzzed in, you're going to wait, I'm going to buzz you, you're going to come in. If you're there to commit the robbery, chances are good you're not going to wait to get buzzed in. You're going to go somewhere else. So we cannot do everything, but we are trying because we want to keep it that nice community. And thank you for your comments. We are trying to do everything we can from a law enforcement, from a municipal standpoint, and we need the cooperation. And you're right. Talking about it on social media is great. We want people to share experiences. We want that to happen. Where I get concerned is where, of course, the sky is falling. Oh my God, what happened to our town? We live in the worst town in the world. No, we certainly don't. And this is not anything that any other community isn't experiencing, but that's not good enough for us. Just because this is happening everywhere, we don't want to just say, well, it's happening everywhere, so well. We're doing everything we can, including having this meeting tonight. Sure, yeah, of course.
So this broadens the conversation out a little bit, but I think you guys will get it. In that the first line of defense for each and every one of us is ourselves. And a few months ago, I was at Meyer with my grandson, and I ordinarily would not do this, but I just felt compelled. There was a lady with her young child, and her purse in the cart, and the purse is wide open, and on top of the purse is her wallet. Now that does happen from time to time where these wallets are stolen, if not the whole purse, but certainly the wallet is not an uncommon thing. And geez, I just felt compelled. My wife's purse is like an appendage. She's told me, I can't remember how many hundreds of times, hey, watch my purse, because she's going to be doing something. So I told the lady, I said, I'm sorry to bother you. I don't mean to, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I'm a policeman and I happen to notice your wallet on top of your purse is open. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I could have stolen it. I didn't say that, but anybody could have stolen it. And, I get the look. So I go and finish our shopping, but that's the deal. It's awareness. is mindfulness, right? That's her purse, it's her wallet. If it gets stolen, she's the one who'll suffer for it, but I felt compelled to tell her. So we can help our neighbors, but mostly we should help ourselves. Lock our door, keep our valuable stuff maybe out of sight when we are in parking lots and commercial areas. Nobody will break into my car because there's really nothing in it. And certainly anything that is in it you can't see. It's either hidden behind something or it's on the floor or a trunk or what have you. So if we did that, we would cut these crime numbers down to virtually nothing. I mean, in terms of these car burglaries. And that's just a fact. And as the mayor said, there's no doubt in my mind that this is wholly preventable by keeping our doors locked. All of these things. I've been in this business, Friday it'll be 42 years. And I'm actually much older than I look. But so I've been told.
He started when he was 35.
But that is the case. We can make efforts. We can extend ourselves just a little bit to help ourselves, help our neighbors, not be crime victims. And a lot of it's very simple.
Absolutely. All right. Any other? Yeah. Hold on a second. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make a point as far as the garage doors being
Yes.
open. Actually, as a neighbor, somebody across the street, you're going to see that the garage door is open more than they are.
Yes.
So if it's late at night, it would be nice to either call that person,
Go knock on a door.
on their door, better that than having the door open.
It happens.
Absolutely, and for the television audience that I've been reminded about, the point that was made is if you see your neighbor's garage door open, you're more likely to see it open than they are to even remember. Go be a good neighbor and let them know. Let's face it, like I said, a lot of us lived at a time where we were a neighborhood watch for each other. We looked out for each other's kids. We looked out for each other's property. We tend to be all talking to everybody on here, but when it comes face to face, not so much. We need more of that. We've got a great community here, and we do look out for each other. And it's important that we do that. So if you see a garage door open or you notice the dome light on in a car or something, absolutely, please go tell your neighbor. Yes, sir.
This has been a great meeting for this car burglary stuff. Are you guys planning on anything to preventive theft issues?
Sure, and I know that there have been a number of classes through Triad or some of those other organizations where they do, where we do partner with other neighboring police departments and host them. I think sometimes at the library, sometimes in the community room or over at the police station. We do have those. I would say that you can always call the police department and ask when the next one's scheduled for, but we do try to have informative meetings, preventative meetings. This is kind of answering some of the concern, but we do have meetings like that pretty frequently. Anything from self-defense for women that the police department's been involved in working to those sorts of crimes, identity theft and whatnot.
Like the identity theft, would you be able to provide statistics? Like I read in the Patriot, okay, people are getting bank information from people.
Yeah.
You know what banks they are? Or Verizon keeps giving things, we're giving people Verizon accounts for phones. Well, does Verizon know what they're doing as far as giving out accounts to people that they don't want?
Right, and the question is if a particular bank or a particular phone company or something is having an issue, they have a responsibility. We don't always know that because as one of the officers was saying earlier, not everything even gets reported to us. A lot of it just goes through the banking and we don't know, but there should be that information should be coming from that particular bank. I know one time a hospital had a lot of information taken back, was year two? Okay. And it wasn't in our town, but it was in our town. And I was notified saying, hey, several social security numbers were taken and whatnot. So I think those businesses do a pretty decent job of that. The police are always available to answer questions, but our area police departments, whether it's the Citizens Police Academy or whether it's these informal meetings that they put on, our area police departments, the Lincoln Way area police departments, work very well with the county sheriff and do a number of these type of informational meetings. We would encourage you to kind of call and get those schedules and come to them because you're really not only helping yourself, you're helping us because it does tie up a lot of manpower issues to deal with these cases. So, yes, sir.
Let me get something, because I make a point, I still want to forget this. So today we started posting on our Facebook page a series of public service announcements from information we've got from the Federal Trade Commission, short videos on how to avoid being scammed out of money. And there are, we're all getting telephone calls from Social Security or God knows who else. And so we're putting these up. I think we're going to put up one a week here for the next several weeks. If you get an opportunity, and perhaps tell your friends. I made my wife share them to all the local groups.
Right.
And so it's worthwhile. It's really a simple message. Anybody looking for money on a robocall, click. None of them are legit. Pardon me? Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, and the truth is, and we're all guilty of this, we're all somewhat pretty lax until we become the victim of a crime. I mean, and that's really, so if you have been, certainly don't beat up on yourself. It happens to any one of us. But if nothing's happened to us, we kind of just go through life. And then when it happens to us, we're more aware of what's happening here. So, yes, sir.
It's part of the issue, and I think that from the tone I get, it's a matter of accountability on the residents. If I put a bowl of sugar out there, sugar water, and the bees come in, can I blame the bees? I mean, we have to take responsibility ourselves. I mean, in this day and age, with the things that are going on out there, we have to expect it.
It's sad. You're right. I mean, again, by no way, shape, or form should we be victim blaming, because the truth is nobody has a right to commit a crime against you. It doesn't matter what you've done. If you left your car unlocked or your door unlocked, it's still a criminal act. They have no business doing that. And if they're caught, they will be arrested and prosecuted to whatever extent we can. But you're right. We have to be more vigilant with what we're doing for our entire community's sake. So when the crime stats, if we can really get the word out, as you said, man, if we can really get the word out, and all of a sudden for the next 6 months, we have 6 instead of 66, that speaks volume. Now people will feel a little better about the community and what's happening. And so you're right. We as citizens have an obligation to not invite that crime into our neighborhoods. It's not just us who's the victim. They're coming into our entire neighborhood. And if they get into a chase and hurt somebody, so we just really want to do everything we can to keep them out. So if there's nothing else, it's been an hour. It's been a great meeting. Again, sir, did you want to add something? Please, go ahead. Come here. I'm going to tell you something. I thought some wise guy was going to check my car out there, so I double checked to make sure it was locked. But you're right. But it does happen to all of us. So thank you all for coming out here. We know. Yes, go ahead, sir. No, go ahead. So am I. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You know, and I'll tell you, here's the reality of it. Back then, when you and I were kids, if your dad would have grabbed me and dragged me home, my dad would have thanked him and then beat me. Nowadays, we're not like that anymore as a society, and it's really sad. It's really sad. To your point, we need to look out for each other. We need to be a little more involved. Our communities are spread out. They're not like where we grew up or at a different time. So people are great about looking out for their neighbors in this town. They really do. We've got programs like our CERT program, which is volunteering and giving back to the community, that's got hundreds of members. So we've got a great community of people that look out for each other. But the reality is, it's a different time. And here's the thing. You wouldn't want to tell a kid nowadays, back in our day, if you had a problem, you ran up to a house that had that sign in the window. Well, you know who's going to have the sign in the window nowadays? The last place you want a kid running up to. And that's the problem. And that's why I think, because society, that was the reason for those signs, as you recall, is if you were a kid and you were in trouble, you could run to that home. Well, now, you can imagine who will put that sign up in their window? No, thanks. So, you wouldn't want to tell a kid, go run to that house, because we don't know who that is. That's the problem. So it's unfortunately, it's a societal issue. It's unfortunate. To the chief's point, I'm going to tell you that we talk about these arrests, the decriminalization of crime. I can tell you, not to tell war stories, but I remember arresting a guy, and on his criminal history, it was his 100th arrest. And he had done 18 months of jail time and 100 arrests. Well, why not go out and commit crimes? If you're not going to be punished, now that was in Cook County, but why not go out and go? Look, we are decriminalizing everything. And these people know that they can come out there and commit these crimes, and the fear of punishment is next to nothing. So jails are full, so let's kick everybody out. But that's a whole nother discussion we could have. We'll be here at 8 in the morning. But the point is, let's not allow ourselves to be victims. If we lock our doors and they come up empty, they're going to go somewhere else. And then it's up to that mayor and police department to have a town hall meeting. All right? Thank you all for being out here. To our police departments, everybody, thank you. If you have any questions that you want to ask, we'll stick around for a little bit after. Feel free. Thank you for coming out.